Hi, everybody. This is Jackie Benestante, and I'm here with Barbara Bush today. We're doing a presentation for you guys on Medicaid waivers and how to get your child on the list. Barbara is an expert in this area, and we really wanted to have her explain it. We know a lot of parents and caregivers struggle with this, and so we're excited to have her explain it. I am just going to stop sharing this for a minute, and we are going to tell you a little bit more about Barbara, and then I'm going to turn it over to her, and she's going to share her screen for her presentation. So Barbara is the president of Solutions for Special Needs Families, and prior to that, she was the director of admissions for the Marbridge Foundation for 8 years. And Barbara is a national Social Security advisor, which means she's a certified Social Security benefits advisor. She brings a broad base of experience in planning for and meeting the needs of adults with intellectual disabilities. Barbara also helps families navigate the complex government benefits of Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. And she works to maximize these benefits for loved ones. She has a background in estate planning and probate, and she applies extensive knowledge of both legal and medical considerations required in the process of long-term planning. She works with families locally, nationally, and even internationally with helping them with their life options for individuals with intellectual disabilities. So as you can tell, Barbara's got a lot of experience in this, and she's going to have a really good lot of information to share with you all. So I'm going to turn it over to Barbara now, and then she is going to start sharing her presentation. So thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Jackie. And let me see if everything moves quickly and smoothly like it's supposed to.
I'll let you know. Let's see. Oh yeah, you're full screen there. Okay, we can see it.
Now if it will just, there we go. Technology, that's for the bane of my existence. Not necessarily Social Security, but technology. So I'm going to be talking today about what are Medicaid waivers and how do you get your child on the list. So the first thing I want to say straight off the board, hopefully everybody has called and gotten their child's name on every Medicaid waiver list there is. It's an extremely long wait to get the home and community-based services, the HCS. So do it as soon as you can. If you haven't, go ahead and do it, because your name will never come to the top if your name's not on the list. And if at some point you decide when your name comes to the top of the list, you don't want it, you're under no obligation to take it. The one thing I will say, when you're on the list, call every year to make sure you're still on the list, confirm your address, confirm your telephone number, and your email address. Because if you should change any of those and don't tell them, they drop you from the list. So that's not anything anybody wants to happen. So, you know, we all know, all of the families, we all need support and assistance to get everything done. Especially for children with, you know, special need. It just becomes overwhelming for the parents to figure this all out on their own. So Medicaid is a major source of funding for long-term services and supports. For children 18 years of age, eligibility for Medicaid is based on part on the parental income. So unless your child is medically fragile, meaning they should be living in a nursing home, then they probably will not qualify for Medicaid under 18. So also, children under 18 can become eligible for Medicaid regardless of parental income if they have a Medicaid waiver. And I'm going to go into explaining a little bit more about that. Texas also allows some parents and working adults to buy into the Medicaid program. So here's the contact information to get onto the waiting list. So as you can see, there are 7 different programs. Try to get on the list for every single one. Now, the one at the bottom, the yes waiver, is for children up until their 18th birthday if they have mental illness. So if your child is aggressive and you're constantly needing to maybe call the police for help, you have to have psychiatric help, apply for this yes waiver. There's no waiting list, but it does go away at age 18. We're going to go into what all these different waivers mean and what they provide. So Medicaid home and community-based waivers. These are the 7 I was just talking about. So Medicaid home and community-based service waivers let states support individuals to live in the community instead of a facility like a hospital or a nursing home or a large group home. Because the thought was, let's try to get people out of these state-run facilities. So the home and community-based services, they're flexible. They give a wide range of services and support. They're family and person-centered. Eligibility based on the person's income, not the family. Now, this is when the person is over 18, because at that point, they're considered an adult, and they only look at that person's income. For children, the income of the parent is not considered except for Texas home living. Now, this kind of sounds redundant because I've just said the parent's income is considered. Again, this has to be taken into context of if you're filing for medically dependent Medicaid, that's when the parent's income is not considered because it's on the severity of the disability of that child. So a waiver is a way for individuals to become eligible for Medicaid. Waivers are not entitlements, so there can be waiting lists. MDCP, Medically Dependent Children Program, I think it should be children's, is an alternative to nursing facilities for children under 21. And at this point, this does not consider the parent's income. So what does this give you? So if you received this, you would get respite services, meaning either in the home or out of the home. But you would get, even if it's a weekend away, where your child is safe and is being taken care of. So you can go and regroup and regenerate and, come back and have the physical and emotional stability again. They will provide home modifications. Maybe you need railings in the bathroom. Maybe you need a ramp to get into the house. Your doors might need widening if your child's in a wheelchair. If your child could work, they will give you employment assistance, transition assistance, so getting to and from doctors, getting to and from events, flexible family supports. And this is something you would work with your case manager to determine what kind of family supports you need. Adaptive aids. So maybe the wheelchair you had is not really the right fit for your child. Maybe it needs to be smaller to, conform more to your child. And supported employment. Again, if your child is medically stable and able to do some type of employment, they will help guide your child while they're working. So children and young adults living in nursing facilities can move home with MDCP services. Otherwise, there could be a wait, when you apply and if you're at home. Children can get MDCP through a limited nursing stay. So if you're in a nursing home, if your child is, for 30 days, when they come out, they will have MDCP and Medicaid. Children on MDCP automatically transition into the STAR Plus waiver on their 21st birthday. And this is important because you're now back into that whole system of getting those Medicaid waiver supports. CLASS is another one. CLASS means Community Living Assistance and Support Services. So this is an alternate to living in an intermediate care facility, an ICF group home. So I'm going to stop a little bit and explain that. Medicaid waiver with the HCS pays for your child to live in a group home. Group home would mean 3 to 4 people in a home. An ICF group home is not part of the waiver services. You have to have had a disability determination from your local authority. You have to have an IQ of under 70 or have, other diagnoses with this. So if you had autism and you had anxiety or you had OCD, these are all comorbidities that if your IQ was 75, you would still be approved. So these homes, they may have 6 people, they may have 13. They're treated similar to a group home. Everyone goes to a day program during the day. They go on outings, they have to be in the community. They have nursing, they have caregivers, attendant care. But there is no waiting list if you qualify. And the other thing with HCS is it's considered the money follows the person. So you've got an HCS, your parent has placed you in this group home, thinks it's just great. Someone moves out, new person moves in, now it's not so good. Your parent can pick any group home in Texas that that has an opening and is a better fit for your child. With an ICF group home, the person running the program has what they call purchased a bed. They have to buy a license to have people in that home. So if you leave that home, you can go to another ICF group home, but you can't go to a HCS group home. Because that HCS group home does have the waiting list for the waivers. So an ICF group home does not consider the parental income, the related condition and developmental disability must have occurred before age 22. Keep age 22 in the corner, bright lights on it, because that is extremely important age. If your child is 26, but their disability began before age 22, you can still apply for SSI and Medicaid for that person. But if their disability, they were in a car wreck and had a traumatic brain injury at 25, they can still apply, but they're not ever going to be connected to their parents' Social Security work record. Again, why that planning is important is when the parent retires, that disabled child is entitled to half of the parent's Social Security benefit. When they die, they're entitled to 75%. But again, this has to be because the disability occurred before age 22. All right, so back on subject, class. So the services class provides are a day habilitation program, an extensive amount of therapies. They have OT, PT, speech. They have aquatherapy, hippotherapy, recreation therapy, massage therapy. There's quite a lot of therapies. There's also, they provide you with support services. And so if your child wanted to go to the movies, they can provide a support person to take your child to the movies. They have behavioral support, including ABA. They provide dental, nursing, supported employment. So if your child can work and wants to work, but needs the supported employment, meaning somebody there to keep them on track, keep them from wandering off, keep them from having a meltdown at work, that person is there to help them. Again, there's respite care. So if you need a break, then you can request respite care. Pre-vocational services, that's where they're helping train your child to see what kind of jobs they could do. Help them write a resume, help them apply for the job. And then transition assistance services. So again, if your child is independent enough, if they're going to be living in a group home or a maybe it's an apartment with supports, then they're going to have the assistance to help your child do that. So there are ways for children and adults to leave a nursing facility and get class. Again, you spend that 30 days in a nursing home, you come out with Medicaid. And that Medicaid can be, if you're old enough, you could get the class services. People who have high needs. So you're on a trach, you need a baclofen pump, you need lots of therapy, your medications and everything are very high. You can ask your case manager to go over that yearly cost cap. So they set an amount that they can give you. Well, if your needs are higher than what they have said, set your cap for, you can request to say, no, I need this and I need that, and I need more services than what you've listed. Adults over 21 in the waiver get medical services through STAR Plus managed care. And children in the waiver get Medicare through STAR Kids. Now, both of these Medicaids are very different than a traditional Medicaid, where it's a person it's indigent, does not qualify for SSI, and applies for Medicaid. This type of Medicaid gives you much more services and access to therapies and doctors. So here is a list of the related conditions that you can go to and check out and see what conditions you would have to meet this criteria. So HCS is home and community-based services. This is, I've heard it called the golden ticket. This is the hardest one to receive. Unfortunately, I was just told by executive director for Easter Seals that it's now a 30-year wait. So that's what I'm saying. Get your child on as soon as possible. And if you just put your child on, become a squeaky wheel with the legislatures. They're the ones that can let loose of some of Texas's money to help with this waiting list of the waivers. Developmental disability is below a 70 or a related condition and an IQ below 75. So if your child is a very high functioning person with autism and they have a 95 IQ, they probably will not qualify to be in the Medicaid waivers. But again, if they have an IQ of 95, but they meet the medical necessity for a nursing home, then they could qualify. So there's a lot of caveats, a lot of things to think of. So don't always say, oh, it won't work. That's not for my child. Go ahead and get somebody to that knows more about the waiver programs and talk to them. So what they give you is residential assistance. So here you can do it in either way. Your child could live in a group home, or your child could live at home. You would be considered a foster care or the care provider, and you would be paid to take care of your child and provide services for them. Because what they you do is you'd have to find a day program for your child and pay for that out of the money that the state is providing to you. They would again do home and vehicle modifications. The therapies they give are not as many as class, but they give you speech, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. Provide nursing care, behavioral supports, including ABA, supported employment, adaptive aids. Maybe you're visually impaired, you can read, but you need larger print. So it's possible that they could give you something where you're reading, if you're reading on a computer, it's enlarged, or different aids to help you. Again, a day hab, respite care, and dental. So some of the day programs do have you go in the community, they help you with employment. So, you know, not all day habs are alike, not all group homes are alike. It's up to the parent to actually go out and investigate, ask questions, see if it meets the parent's standards. So there is a way for individuals, again, to leave nursing facilities and get the HCS regardless of their IQ. So in the hospital or nursing homes, they have what they call a PASSR. So somebody from the state comes out and interviews your child to see if they would qualify to leave the nursing home and move into a group home. There's a way for individuals to get HCS if they are at risk of going into a nursing home. So if there's no place for them to go other than a nursing home, the state can come in and say, yes, we can put you in a group home. Excuse me, there's a way for individuals to get HCS if they're in crisis. Now, this one's a hard one to do. I think they're called diversionary slots. But this means if your child is, you're calling the police on your child's running away, they're homeless, they're in and out of a hospital due to whatever's happening, you call and you get the hotline to come in and do an intervention, because if the child can't live at home, you don't want the child on the street, you don't want the child in jail, then the state can come in and find a group home for them. People who have high needs can ask to go over the cap. So again, just like class, the case manager is going to set out what they think your child needs. And it's your job as a parent to be proactive, look over this and say, wait, we need more hours in speech therapy. We need more hours in ABA therapy. We need not somebody to be on the job with them for one day. We need somebody to be on the job with them every day. So these are the things you negotiate and you work for your child. Again, adults over 25 get their services through Star Plus Managed Care, and children get it through Star Kids. Now, Texas home living is one that is probably the easiest to get to time frame. But if your name comes up, you have to have Medicaid in place. Whereas if your name came up with HCS, they'll let you have time to apply for Medicaid. But with all of these, you have to have Medicaid because that's the payer source. Also, this does consider the parental income. So again, you must have it Medicaid or SSI. You have, again, the developmental disability is below 70 or related condition and an IQ below 75. So what this gives you is community support. So, getting into the community, home and vehicle modification, therapy of speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, nursing, behavioral support, including ABA, supported employment and employment assistance, adaptive aids, a day program, respite, and dental. This does not give you as many hours or as much funding dollar amounts than CLAS or HCS. But it is giving you some supports. So Texas Home Living has a large number of services, but a lower dollar amount for services. So HHSC is currently evaluating whether to move all or some of these services to managed care. Adults over 21 in the waiver get medical services through Star Plus managed care, and children get it through Star Kids. Now, here's something I learned. With DBMB, it says deaf blind. It does not say deaf or blind, because you have to be deaf and blind with multiple disabilities to qualify for this program. Developmental disabilities must be legally deaf and legally blind, as well as having other disabilities. So keep that in mind when you're thinking of this waiver program. But if you do, you get the residential habilitation. So they pay for a group home. Home and vehicle modifications, therapies, nursing, behavior supports, environmental accessibility. So you have to be able to get in and out of places, orientation and mobility. So they have to be able to, if you can't hear and you can't see, help you with supports to get around and to be mobile in the community. Supported employment, employment assistance, adaptive aids, day hab, respite, audiology, an intervener, and chore provider. So these are a lot of the services, somewhat similar to the HCS, but again, this is harder to qualify for because you have to be deaf and blind and have other disabilities. But this is a way for individuals to leave nursing facilities and get these services. People who have high needs can go over the yearly amount. And again, adults over 21 will get their services through Star Plus managed care, and children will get their services, can't talk, services through Star Kids. Now, this was the YES program that I was talking about earlier. So this is an alternative to inpatient psychiatric treatment for children aged 3 to 18. So you must meet DSHS's clinical criteria, including risk of self-harm, risk of self-disruption, or aggressive behavior. As I said, there's no wait if you can qualify. Excuse me. So with this, community living supports. So you're living in the home, but you need support so you can live there. If you want to go out, you have to have somebody with you. They will provide that. Home and vehicle modifications, professional services, and paraprofessional services, meaning maybe it's a psychiatrist, a therapist, help for your child. There's nursing, respite, supportive family-based alternatives. So maybe the child can't live in the home, so they would find a place where it's safe for that child to live. There's traditional services, non-medical transportation, and family support. Because if a family is going through this with a child that they're at risk of the family, their other siblings being harmed by this child, the parents might be harmed, pets might be harmed. They may lock the parents out of the home. There's all kinds of things that are possible. Well, you as a family are going to need counseling. You're going to need support on how to handle this. So this is a least known waiver out there. Again, there's no wait if you qualify, but it is for children 3 to 18. And it's a very important service if your family needs this. So the yes waiver is statewide. The waiting lists are much less in some service areas. And so what that talks about is if you live in a town and there's 800 people living there and you're very rural, nothing is close, it's going to be harder to get services than if you lived in Austin or San Antonio or Georgetown, where there's going to be more services. So take that into consideration. Children with autism have sometimes been denied waiver eligibility, even if they have a mental health diagnosis. So again, seek help getting this approved, because as you know, not everyone with autism is the same. You know, the old saying, I've met one person with autism, you haven't met them all. Star Plus waiver. Again, this is another alternative to nursing facilities for individuals 21 and older. But you must meet the medical necessity criteria for admission to a nursing home. Your income can be 300% of the SSI income limit. So with this service, you get personal assistance services, home vehicle modification, therapy, speech, occupational, and physical, nursing care, behavioral supports, adult foster care, traditional assistance services, supported employment, adaptive aids, medical supplies, home delivered meals, respite, emergency response services, dental, and employment assistance. So if you have someone that may be trying to live in an apartment, even with some services, but their health is where they would meet the criteria to live in a nursing home. This waiver may be able to keep them in that apartment with services. So again, look into all of these waivers. So young adults who turn 21, who are aged out of MDCP or Medicaid private duty nursing, move into Star Plus waiver with no wait. Individuals who have SSI automatically get Star Plus waiver services with no wait. Higher income individuals enter from waiting list. There is a way for individuals to leave a nursing home and move into a Star Plus waiver. Individuals in Star Plus whose needs exceed the individual cost cap can request additional funds. And all individuals who were in the community-based assistance transitioned to Star Plus on September 1, 2014. Here again, I'm going back to this waiting list. Call HCS. This is a website. You'll go in there and search what county you live in, and it will bring up who your local authority is and the phone number and address so you can contact them. So please, I can't say it enough, please call. And if you've already called, call and make sure they're still on the waiting list. Find out where they are on the waiting list. So what is Medicaid buy-in? So Medicaid buy-in for children can help pay medical bills for children with disabilities. This program helps families who need health insurance but make too money to get traditional Medicaid. So families can buy into Medicaid by making a monthly payment or premium. To be in this program, a child must be age 18 or younger, must meet the same rules for a disability that are used to get SSI. You must live in Texas, be a U.S. citizen or legal resident, and not be married. So you get an application for Medicaid buy-in with children. You complete this. You can also go on to this website, click on how to get help, and then click children. You can try calling 211. I've never had good luck with that, but you might. So don't go by what I say. But you ask to have a Medicaid buy-in for your children application mailed to you. If you can go into an office, you could go into an office near you to help get that application filled out. So there's also Medicaid buy-in for adults. So this allows certain people with disabilities who work to buy into Medicaid. The program offers low-cost Medicaid healthcare services, including some community-based services and support. Some people might have to pay a premium. So if you had a disability, you're working and you live, and you you're not living in an institution or a nursing home, again, you can fill out this application. A lot of times you have SSI and Medicaid. Well, if you have SSI, there's a certain dollar amount you can get before you lose your Medicaid, before you lose SSI and Medicaid. And that is over $1,800 a month. So if you're making that much money, but Medicaid is still important to you, you can apply for this Medicaid buy-in. So you will have health insurance. So always remember that's available to you. So community first choice. This was added to the Medicaid state plan on June 1, 2015. It offers personal assistance services, habilitation for individuals who qualify, including individuals with developmental disabilities. So an individual must have Medicaid and meet the criteria again for a nursing facility, intermediate care facility, or residential treatment center. Children and young adults under age 22 will contact Star Kids Service Coordinator if they have SSI. You can also contact your, we love acronyms, LIDA, local, it's your local authority. Adults 21 and over with developmental disabilities will contact their local intellectual and developmental disability authority, or their managed care organization. But this is a way so you can get some services, but not all, because this will be coming out of a different bucket of money. So these are limited amount of services. But again, you must have the Medicaid or Medicaid and SSI to request these from your local authority. So here's just a snapshot of what each of these three, I'm just showing you the three programs provide to the person that's receiving it. And again, I need to change my estimated waiting list from 15 to 18 years, probably to 18 to 30. Yes, that's very depressing to me that Texas is so far at the bottom of the list of any place in the United States. I think we go between from different years. Mississippi might be 48th or 49th, and we're 50th. We might be 49th and Mississippi gets to be 50th, but neither one is to be proud of. I have talked to many families that are moving to Texas thinking everything's so great here. It's such a wonderful state. And I'll say, do you have money? Because you're going to lose all those services that you had in another state. If you have services here and you move to the state of Washington and you get services there probably within 9 months, but you don't like Washington, you move back to Texas, you're at the bottom of the list and you have to wait the 30 years for your name to come to the top. So these are all things to consider. If you're moving, it's always good to be aware of what the limitations might be. So I thank you for attending. I hope you have questions, and I'm looking forward to answering all your questions.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you. We actually have a lot of questions. Are you okay? Tell me
Sure.
when you need to jump off, but we've got a lot of questions. So
Good.
so first of all, just some basics. People asked if they can get a copy of the PowerPoint. So yes, Barbara has graciously said she can give us the PowerPoint. We'll put that on our website, and then we'll post the link in Facebook with this video, so you can all go through the slides that Barbara's been talking about, because I know there's a lot, it's a lot of information, and it's confusing. So I'm glad we have Barbara.
Yes.
So the first question is, what are the qualifications for ICF, which is, for those of you who don't know, that's intermediate care facilities. That was our first question.
So to qualify for ICF, you must go through your local authority and be tested. And it's a disability intellectual DID, disability something determination. It'll take a little while depending on what county you live in, but they test for your IQ, they test for how your adaptability skills, your behavioral skills. There's another test they give you, is the CARD, and that goes hand in hand a lot of times with schools. But again, they want to know your functionality, your adaptability. So once you have that, and you know, you've got the IQ that's you have to meet, you have designated all the disabilities you have. At that point, then you can make an application for any of the intermediate care facilities in Texas. So you've got to look for, the big thing is who has an opening. You make an application there. They can deny you, especially you've made an application and you're a female and it's an all-male house. Well, that's not going to work. Depends on what it is you need. Do you want to be rural? Do you want to, you know, there's so many things to factor in there. But once you have these assessments, then you can go find a list, and I think Health and Human Services can provide that, who has an ICF license in Texas. And then that's the parents' job to go call around, find out who has an opening, what's their criteria, what do they want, can you come for a visit? Always visit, always use a smell test, always, you know, just use your eyes, listen, see how the other people living there respond, or, you know, how they look, find out what they do during the day. But again, you find a great place, it's got an opening, you submit the application, they accept you, your child can then move in. I hope that helps.
Yeah, and Barbara, when you said, I think you said you start out for ICF, you start out going to your local authority, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, because we get a lot of calls and emails from parents, people don't even really know about this, but the IDD, or the LIDA that Barbara mentioned, it's LIDDA, and it's the Local Intellectual and Developmental Disability Authority. And there's one for everyone in Texas. So they're usually like regional or county or whatever. But if you Google that, or you can also message us, but if you Google LIDA Texas, LIDDA, you should be able to find that. And they're the gatekeepers for a lot of these services, right, Barbara?
Right. And on the presentation, I had that website you can go to, and it has search. And so you put in your county, and it will bring up who you need to call.
Yes, so we'll be posting that tomorrow. So that's, I just kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit too, because a lot of people are not aware of the LIDAs. So, okay. And then somebody else asked, my son is 3.5 years old, and SSI would not allow us to even apply because it was based on my family income and not the child's income. Is that true? And then where do I apply then?
So it is true that before age 18, they consider the parent's income to be part of the child. only after age 18 do they look at the child's income. Now, the only time that doesn't come into consideration is if your child is medically fragile, is in a nursing home, then you can get services without them looking at your income, but your child has to be very medically fragile.
Great, thanks. Okay, and then somebody asked, this might be a silly question, but why are the wait lists so long? Can the state approve only so many people a year? And actually, we got that question a couple of times about wait lists, so I could talk about that too. But Barbara, if you want to start, I might add.
Yeah, because I'll get on my little soapbox. It is because the last 3 legislative sessions, our legislators have decided to put requests for more money to help with the waivers on the wish list. Meaning for the last 6 years, they have not released money to lower that waiting list. There's between 170 and 180,000 people waiting for services. They could, if they wanted, it would have to pass, the House and the Senate, and then the governor would have to approve. But they could pass to release money so more people could get services. And if you want to add to that, Jackie?
Yeah, I was just going to say the waiver wait list and the waiver funding is a frustration for all of us that do disability advocacy and public policy. And it's been something that every legislative session, we all ask for more money. We ask for funding for this, and they do not fund more spots, or they'll fund enough spots for 10 people to get off the list. And like Barbara said, there could be 180,000 people on our wait list. And as Barbara mentioned earlier, Texas is also one of the worst states in the country for disability spending. So we're usually 49th in disability spending per person, or 50th. We're definitely in the bottom 3, along with like Alabama and Mississippi. So, I'm going to talk about it at the end, but we'll have our Texas Autism Advocacy Day at the Capitol April 4th. And I think in the Facebook posts, Leslie, who is working for us on the back end of monitoring Facebook comments, posted our advocacy alert. So a lot of disability organizations are fighting for funding. So, I would really urge everyone to look at your local legislator for Texas, who's your representative, who's your Texas senator, and what are they doing for people with disabilities and autism? So, it'd be really interesting. You might want to contact them and say, hey, I'm in your district and I have a child with autism, or I have an adult with autism. And this is what we need, and this is ridiculous. So it's going to take everyone, but our current group of elected legislators hasn't made this a priority. They have not made people with disabilities a priority, and the funding reflects that. So that's what's going on with the wait list. And I could talk about that for hours too. So I'll stop there. But I do urge people to get involved. And then Barbara, we still have more questions. We got about 5 more questions or so.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, so then on the HCS slide, when you had the HCS important fact slide up, someone asked to clarify if a child is under 18 is placed in group housing or a nursing home situation and then removed, does that bump them out of the waiting list and get them to the waivers instantly?
It does. If you've been in that nursing home, and I think you have to be there for 30 days, then when you come out, because again, I've talked about a person that's called they do a PASSAR, and they're from the state, and it's an assessment to see if you would qualify, because they're trying to get people out of the nursing home. So if you qualify, then they're going to try to place you in a group home that will meet that child's needs. So yes.
Okay, thank you. And then someone also said, if you don't qualify for SSI or Medicaid for income today, how can you have these ahead of time when on the waivers? Wait, I don't understand the question. Do you understand that question?
Kind of. And
Or are they saying
I'm
like
not
you're going to put
sure.
your kid on the waivers regardless? So even like today, right? Like you may not qualify under income, but you're going to put your child on the waiver wait list as young as you possibly can, because when they turn 18, it's going to be based on their income. So you're putting them on the waiver wait list, right, Barbara? I think that might be the question.
Right. You know, and they may be older than 18, but still, when your name comes to the top, HCS will give you time to apply for Medicaid if you haven't already. Texas Home Living will not. You have to have Medicaid in place.
Okay. Yeah. So, and everyone gets on the wait list now, though, regardless of income. So if you have a young child now, whatever your income is, you want to get on the wait lists, because when your kiddo turns 18, whatever age they come up on it, you want to have them be on it. And the wait is so long at this point, your child will almost certainly be an adult when they get anything. So, and then it'll be based on their income. So everybody should go ahead and keep their loved ones on the list. And then, okay, another question, this might be partly advocacy and probably needs some other different help, but someone said, my son is very intelligent, but struggling in social situations and struggling learning in a typical classroom. What do you recommend? We tried the IEP route and it was ignored in school. Also, will he qualify for SSI if he has a high IQ? So Barbara, do you want to talk about if you'll qualify for SSI with a high IQ? And I can address the SPED part if you want.
Sure. So the SSI part, obviously it's harder to qualify if he can drive and he's working and he really could live out on his own and he can cook and shop. Social Security is probably going to say he's not severely disabled, but high IQ, doesn't understand social cues, has trouble in social settings, is vulnerable because he can't tell whether I'm really his friend or I'm trying to take advantage of him. So there's different ways of looking at it. Can he do his daily activities? Well, yeah, he can wash his clothes, but he doesn't dry them or fold them or hang them. Does he make his bed? Not unless I really make sure he makes his bed. You know, so there's different ways to look at it, but if he's totally functioning, then it's going to be extremely hard to prove that he's severely disabled.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks. And then I'll just say the person that asked this question, and anyone listening, anyone with a disability can get an IEP and can get special ed services that is not based on IQ. So if the school is not helping because your child is gifted, has a high IQ, and also has autism or another disability, you are still entitled to special education services. So if you're having problems with that, feel free to email us at support@texasautismsociety.org, and we will help, because you'll probably need to fight the school for services. So they should not be denying special education services. So that goes for everybody, and we'll connect you with some resources. Okay, and then Barbara, the next question, it says, can your child receive SSI along with the Medicaid waiver?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. And then somebody asked, and this is another kind of along with the, it says, why is there a 30-year wait? So we addressed the wait list. And it says, are SPED departments and schools given this information to share with parents? And I know that ECI usually shares this if your child is in early childhood intervention. So that for those of you with autism, that would mean they'd have to be diagnosed or in ECI under age 3, which not all of our kiddos are diagnosed by age 3. And then I think they're also supposed to share it during transition, like at age 14 in your R, but I know that those things don't always happen. But Barbara, do you know if schools are supposed to share waiver information with parents at any specific time, like SPED departments?
I don't know, if your school or other schools around you have transition or resource fairs, and you can take your child that's 4 years old to a resource fair, because it's the parents getting information, and they always have information about Medicaid waivers. I've never been to a resource fair that wasn't talked about.
Yeah, That's true. Okay, good. So hopefully that information is getting out. And then someone else said, my son was denied a yes waiver at the age of 5 because he only has a diagnosis of autism. When can we reapply to see if he qualifies?
I think the big thing is to look at his diagnoses. The autism is not enough. It has to be the behaviors. Is he a risk to himself, to others? You know, there's a whole qualifications in those slides that he has to meet all of those, not just be autistic. So, you know, if you feel like he does meet those now, and you have the documentation from a psychiatrist, psychologist, his medical doctor to support that, then file again.
Okay, so good advice. Thank you. And then somebody asked, does parental income matter for Medicaid buy-in?
What did I say? Medicaid
For
buy-in.
children.
Let's see.
I was thinking for Medicaid buy-in for children, it seems like it's not related to income, right? But is there where is it?
This program helps families who need health insurance but make too much money to get traditional Medicaid. So yes, if the parental income is too high to get traditional Medicaid, apply for the Medicaid buy-in. And then, you know, they may say, well, you need to pay $300 a month, but we'll give you Medicaid.
Okay, great. Okay, and then here's another question, and we see this sometimes too with the IQ, the level of IQ. We've gotten this, we've run into this before, where people are just a little bit above the IQ level, or they're getting denied. But somebody said, this is a kind of very specific thing. It says, I am working with an 18-year-old student with severe autism. He has applied for the Texas Home Living Waiver, but the LIDA has denied him, saying his IQ score is too high, which was between 80 and 89, to qualify for the Texas Home Living Waiver. However, all his verbal and nonverbal IQ assessments are incomplete due to extreme behaviors, and the LIDA based their decision on his incomplete verbal and nonverbal IQ scores. There is very little likelihood he could complete another verbal or nonverbal IQ assessment due to his behaviors and inability to tolerate the testing process. The question is there any way that he can qualify for Texas Home Living Waiver based on alternative criteria, i.e. meeting the nursing facility level of care criteria?
Definitely meeting the nursing level.
Okay.
Yes, because, okay, here it says it does consider the parental income must have a disability below 70 or related conditions, and an IQ below 75. So that IQ is going to be a big factor.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that kind of has thrown out. We've definitely seen that be a barrier before. Okay. Yeah, and then is there anything else they could do, or is this the only?
Excuse me.
Yeah, no problem.
I think if their child is their health could put them in a nursing home. They can meet nursing home criteria.
Okay.
They're going to come out with that PASSR that says they are now eligible for Medicaid waivers.
Okay. All right. If they meet the nursing home criteria, sort of. Okay. All right. That's good to know. Okay. Thank you. And then someone asked if you can have more than one waiver at a time.
No.
No. Okay. All righty. All right. And then someone else asked if you don't have Medicaid, you can't qualify, but I thought or believe waivers didn't take your income in consideration rather than child's income. So,
How old are we talking about the person?
they didn't put an age.
So
So if they're under 18, the parent's income is still considered, right?
Okay.
Over 18, it's the individual's income that's
Right.
considered, right? Yeah. Okay.
And that income is any kind of what we call unearned income, can be SSI, could be SSDI from their own work record, or it could be RSDI, and that's from a parent, retirement, survivor, disability insurance. And then if they work. So if they're getting support, financial support from the parent's work record, and they're working, if that goes over that, I think it's what, 2,500 a month this year. Don't hold me to that, but it's something thereabout. It goes over that amount, then they're still disqualified from the Medicaid waivers.
Okay. Great. And then it said, is there a way we can check where my child currently is on the waiting list?
Call
Call
those numbers and ask where they are and make sure that all the information is correct on phone numbers, email, and address.
Yeah. And normally they'll send a letter every year, right? I mean,
Yeah, sometimes.
okay. Okay, that's interesting. All right, I have a son, I have a kiddo on the list, so I actually get a letter, but I thought that was for everyone, but maybe not. So you can always call, like check Barbara's slideshow or see where you put yourself on, or your local LIDA, and then you could find out where you are on the list. And then someone also asked, is there somewhere to see again about the Medicaid buy-in program? Is there anywhere to see income limits for Medicaid buy-in? That was the one where the parents don't qualify for traditional Medicaid. Is there income limits? And I definitely don't know that, but I would like to, I'm curious too. Let's see.
It is possible that this website, if you can see on my screen,
Yeah.
would give that information,
Okay.
or calling
Call the Medicaid benefits office there. Yeah. And find out if there's a limit on Medicaid buy-in. Okay. And then I actually had a question just out of curiosity about Medicaid buy-in, Barbara, if you know this.
Sure.
Once a family does, if they do Medicaid buy-in and they get it and they've got that Medicaid buy-in set up, are they eligible to use any of the Medicaid benefits? Like, could they start using ABA under Medicaid, for example? Like, does it cover just everything everybody else would get if they had a Medicaid plan? Do you know?
Medicaid plans are managed care. So I would go back to whoever you've chosen, Amerigroup, Molina, Superior, and see what they cover.
Okay. Got it. So when you're doing Medicaid buy-in, you're really buying into one of those plans. So you're just buying into an insurance plan that's a Medicaid plan, but you're buying in. Okay. Got it. All right. I hope everybody, yeah. I see what you're saying. Okay. And then let's see. All right. And then it says, does a child need an IQ below 75 to be on the YES waiver program? Is that IQ based? I don't think it is. It's funny, earlier we were talking about doing waiver trivia or waiver bingo.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was an IQ requirement on the YES.
I don't think there is.
I think there is. But again, probably call the Medicaid benefits, so your local authority, to find out for sure. But I think you just have to have all these things: risk of self-harm, disruptive aggressive behavior, those kind of things to qualify for the YES waiver. I don't think there's an IQ requirement, but again, when you call to find out and get it, they'll tell you. And then, oh, somebody asked, where do you find the nursing home criteria?
One, you could call any of your nursing homes and ask to speak to the social worker or MDS. That's M as in Mary, D as in dog, S as in Sam. MDS nurse is the one that puts, here's an assessment of all my issues. And she puts it down and says, you don't qualify for, nursing home level of care, because if you have it, these might be custodial care. Just because I can't bathe, I need help going to the bathroom, I couldn't feed myself. That doesn't require a registered nurse to feed me. It could be a custodial person that can feed me. It's going to have to be some kind of a medical necessity that requires a nurse to monitor you 24/7. Does that help?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that answers that. And then someone just made a comment that for parents who approve for Medicaid buy-in, they may also qualify for health insurance payment program, HIP. I know it's the acronym HIPP, all in caps, if they have health insurance with an employer. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, about the Medicaid buy-in and the HIP program?
Sure. And it doesn't have to be the Medicaid buy-in. It could be any of those Medicaid services. But if you have your parents working and there is a family in health insurance policy that's covered through the employment, you can apply to Medicaid through this HIP, and it will look at that and say, it's cheaper for us to pay for the Medicaid, the insurance premium for the family, and keep having that as your primary insurance and Medicaid just being secondary. So it is it's a financial thing that Medicaid looks at, but if it is a financial win-win, they will pay for or part of your family insurance premium through your employer.
Great. All right. We'll add a link for that as well in the when we post everything tomorrow. So this, just so for everybody watching, this is going to live on Facebook Live. It'll still be on Facebook on our page. So the video will be there, and then we'll post Barbara's PowerPoint. We'll post a link to our website with the PowerPoint and some of the links that we've been discussing today. And Barbara, I think that just about wraps up our questions. So this was really good. It's very thorough overview of all the waivers. So I know, it's a lot to digest for people, but I think if they go back through it and see what they might be eligible for, and I think it's, or call your local authority, your LIDA, because they can help you a little bit too. But this has been a really good overview of all the different types of waivers. So thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, appreciate it, Barbara. So I'm going to just wrap up now. Barbara, if you can stop sharing, I'm going to share my screen, and I just want to kind of talk about what are some upcoming events, including how can we all advocate more. Thank you for that question, because I will let you know. So I'm going to see if I can share my screen. Let's see. I'm like, maybe I will. There we go. Okay. So I think my screen, am I full screen, Barbara? I think so,
You
right?
are.
Oh, good. Okay, good. So I just wanted to mention a couple of things that are our upcoming events. So our next seminars across the spectrum, so this type of presentation, our next one is February the 23rd from 12 to 1, and it's Challenging Behavior in Autism. And that's with Dr. Hannah McNall. She's a BCBA, LBA, LSSP at University of Texas, San Antonio Severe Behavior Lab. So she's really, really great. And that'll be February 23rd here on Facebook Live. And then for all of you asking, how can you advocate? We have an autism advocacy alert list. So as the session just started, but as things start revving up, we'll really be sending out things to like call your senator, call your representative, what can you do? How do you do it? We'll start posting those things soon. We also have training videos on our website. And then Texas Autism Advocacy Day is Tuesday, April 4th, and registration is opening soon. So if you register for our newsletter, we'll send that out. We'll also be posting it on social media. It'll probably be open. I mean, registration will start within the next week or so. And on that day, we all come together at the Capitol, learn about current legislation and bills, and it'll include funding for the waiver wait list, like we've been talking today, direct care attendant, ECI funding. So all, lots of funding for all of the programs that our kiddos and adults with autism need. And then our Texas Autism Walk is April 23rd at Dreamland in Dripping Springs. And there's an early bird discount code right now to get 20% off. So it's just $20 for the first person and $8 for all the additional, for about up to 4 other people in your family. And that includes event t-shirts and activities. And all of that supports all of our work. So education events, our advocacy work, our programming, everything is free for autistic adults and children and their families. So if anybody wants to join us, we would love for you to register and come out and join us. So those are all of our upcoming events. And we will, of course, if anybody needs Barbara, she's got her information up there. We're happy to connect you with Barbara. She's a huge, great resource for all of these waivers. And we know it's complicated. So we'll be posting all those links. And I think that's it. If anybody needs anything, please let us know. Feel free to shoot us an email. And with that, we're going to wrap up this presentation. So Barbara, thank you again. I appreciate it.